I finally watched Greta Gerwig's Barbie a couple of weeks ago. During the course of the film, I found myself vacillating between loving it and then worrying about where it was going, until I finally realized that I liked it by its conclusion. Despite its light candy coating, Barbie is more like an all-you-can-eat buffet that takes a while to fully digest. What eventually struck me about the film is how it seemed to explore many of the same themes as another movie that I absolutely loved the moment I saw it. Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin from 2014. On the surface, the two films couldn't be more different. Barbie is a big-budget blockbuster based on a very well-known brand. Under the Skin was a small independent art film released by a new up-and-coming film company with a cool logo. Barbie is a bright, sparkling, wordy exercise in pop maximalism, while Under the Skin is dark, quiet, and mysterious. Despite their aesthetic approaches being so different, both films are visually stunning, meticulously crafted, and highly personal visions. They also happen to share nods to Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is always a plus. Both films feature a non-human protagonist pushed out of her comfort zone and onto a journey of self-discovery. Stereotypical Barbie is a doll enjoying a blissfully static daily existence until she is suddenly overcome by existential dread. Barbie leaves the safety of Barbie Land and enters our own physical reality in order to find the source of her newfound anxiety. Along the way, she learns about herself, as does her masculine half, more on that later, and ultimately yearns to be a real human being. The unnamed protagonist in Under the Skin is an alien that's acquired the appearance of a human female in order to fulfill her duty as a harvester of men. Although the film doesn't exactly explain what these unfortunate dudes are used for, the book by Michelle Faber, on which the film is based, makes it clear that they are a food source. She executes her job with cold, emotionless efficiency at first, but she soon experiences an identity crisis and eventually yearns to be a human being. In both cases, the process of becoming human is difficult. The simple act of eating and drinking proves to be problematic. Fiction, folklore, and mythology have provided many examples of a non-human entity transformed into a human being. These stories often function as metaphors for personal growth, parables about what it means to be a human being. The most relevant antecedent here is Pinocchio. Pinocchio's transition into a real boy is widely viewed as a metaphor for the attainment of personhood, stemming from the development of ethical behavior and good judgment. A sense of personal autonomy, unswayed by instant gratification or dopamine hits. Pinocchio demonstrates how we become human beings when we cease to be puppets, no longer tied to drives, urges, or blind emotion. Of course, Barbie's evolution into a human being is rather different. Like Pinocchio, Barbie has a loving human creator. Unlike Pinocchio, Barbie is not a lone artificial creation. She exists in an entirely invented universe, Barbie Land, floating on the mental plane, idealized and unchanging. A disturbance in our own reality is what shakes her from her static world of perpetual fun, and she embarks on a quest to restore some semblance of balance to both our own physical reality and to Barbie Land. Like the Hermetic axiom says, as above, so below. While Pinocchio's transformation into a real boy involves the development of a moral compass, Barbie's transformation into a real woman is ultimately about the creative impulse.
I want to be a part of the people that make meaning, not the thing that's made. I want to do the imagining. I don't want to be the idea.
A big part of what makes humans human is creativity, the power of invention and imagination, the ability to play with ideas. Through creative intelligence, we grow and evolve. Barbie has completed her hero's journey and is ready to advance to a higher level of consciousness as a human.
human beings had created a million explanations of the meaning of life in art, in poetry, in mathematical formulas. Certainly human beings must be the key to the meaning of existence.
David, the android boy from the film AI, Artificial Intelligence, is like Barbie, a Pinocchio offshoot. David is programmed to yearn for the love of his mother, who rejects him and by the film's end has been dead for centuries. Unlike Barbie, David acquires no creative intelligence. He cannot circumvent or transcend his programming. He just keeps wishing that he'd become human so that his mother might love him. And having no imagination whatsoever, he can only vacillate between hope and despair, forever a slave to desire. David is tragically incapable of change. In Under the Skin, our nameless alien protagonist is as much a single-minded slave to her imprinting as David is to his. She dutifully executes her assigned task of attracting men, abducting them, and processing them. She does this without question, without any internal conflict or reflection. Her consciousness is at a level closer to that of the ant that she regards with curiosity than anything remotely human. She fulfills her programmed purpose with zero empathy. But, like Barbie, she soon experiences doubt as to what she's doing and who she is. Her male counterpart / supervisor finds it necessary to examine her in order to ensure against any dormant human tendencies infecting her. After being helped by a group of strangers, she seems to have an epiphany. In a fantastic scene where all the human interaction she witnesses seems to coalesce into a kinetic gold mural. She begins to regard herself the way others see her. These are the first stirrings of an ego identity that most of us develop when we're toddlers. And she's developing quickly. She soon demonstrates empathy and compassion after she interacts with a physically deformed man whom she captures but later sets free. These experiences leave her as disturbed and confused as flat-footed Barbie. She soon abandons her assigned task, goes AWOL, and wanders aimlessly through the Scottish Highlands by herself. At least Barbie had Ken tagging along. Closer I am to find. For many viewers, the underlying theme of both Barbie and Under the Skin is primarily gender. In the case of Barbie, this interpretation led to many highly charged arguments over the film's political position. But while both films play with social hierarchies where women and men are concerned, I think the focus on gender relations functions more as a gateway to a much broader exploration of what constitutes the self, beyond standard ideas about identity. In Barbie Land, the Kens are second-class citizens to the dominant Barbies in a bizarro mirror of our own world. It's similar to the flipped gender dynamic in Under the Skin, where the female is predator and the male is prey, in a basic reversal of conventional tropes. Although it should be noted that our female alien is still apparently beneath her male counterpart in rank. When Ken is introduced to the concept of patriarchy, a system that's as fraught with inequality as Barbiearchy, he launches a Ken revolution that plays as a bizarro mirror of feminism in our own society. Many films have applied this topsy-turvy approach to comment on social inequality. It only makes sense that gender issues would be examined too, especially since many people consider it an important aspect of their identity. When our alien regards herself in the mirror, is she seeing an identity that others have imposed on her? Or is she seeing what she believes to be her true self? Lost and alone in the countryside, she is befriended by a stranger, and a closeness seems to develop between them. But there's an obvious problem. She's not a biological woman, as she lacks sex organs. She's not even human. Barbie doesn't have genitals either.
I do not have a vagina.
Although that is apparently resolved when she becomes human.
I'm here to see my gynecologist.
Perhaps her attainment of reproductive organs is symbolic of her newfound creative impulse. The alien's newfound sense of self doesn't proceed from her or their or its actual physical body, which we eventually discover looks nothing like Scarlett Johansson. It appears that this alien has begun identifying with its costume. As for Ken, who doesn't have genitals either,
I have all the genitals.
his maleness, and that of the other rebelling Kens, is also demonstrated by secondary traits: clothes, music, trucks, beer. Their adherence to a tribal identity is largely expressed in the form of socially sanctioned consumer goods. The Barbies are also guilty of this sort of superficial expression of identity. We all are. Consumerism and our economy is built on this false sense of self. Instead of forging an identity by working with your own creative intelligence, you're encouraged to simply decorate your ego with a ready-to-wear identity. And how about that ego? There are many schools of thought that view the ego as merely a tool that you use to navigate the world you've been born into. It's not your true self. And whenever you do identify yourself with it, you get into trouble. In the words of Zen monk Shunryo Suzuki, how much ego do you need? Just enough so that you don't step in front of a bus. This is just the level of ego development that the alien seems to have attained by the end of Under the Skin. She is concerned with self-preservation, fearful for the first time, as she is pursued by a sexual predator. This, by the way, demonstrates the negative aspect of having an identity. You've been identified. You've been differentiated. If you happen to be in a hostile environment, you're a target. Her assailant sets her on fire, and she burns to death amid quiet snowfall. Smoke rises from the burning body as snow drifts down. At the end of the book, Isserly, which is the alien's name in the book, meets her end in a different manner, but her thoughts about her impending death rhyme nicely with the ending of the film. The atoms that had been herself would mingle with the oxygen and nitrogen in the air. Instead of ending up buried in the ground, she would become part of the sky. When it snowed, she would be part of it, falling softly to the earth. Rising up again with the snow's evaporation, she would live forever. You can read this ending on a purely materialistic level. Our bodies are composed of the same elements present throughout the rest of the universe, the same atoms that were produced in the Big Bang. Maybe that's all the ending of the story amounts to. Maybe that's all we amount to. Or maybe the burning, the smoke, the condensation symbolize consciousness returning to the source, becoming as one with the totality of the universe. According to the Sufi poet Rumi, you are not just a drop in the ocean, you are the mighty ocean in the drop. Advaita Vedanta sees the individual self and the universe as expressions of the same ocean of pure consciousness. The meaning of the Greek axiom, know thyself, is something that people have been wrestling with for millennia. Under the Skin and Barbie are remarkable in that they reflect the many ways we interpret thyself. On an elementary physical level, I am my body. In order to move through the world, I develop an ego. And then I learn how to interact with my given society and take on a range of different identities. When I create, I am first and foremost my mind. And when I eventually realize the true self that transcends all labels and categories, I will know firsthand how I am inseparable from the universe. Or as is written in the Upanishads, thou art that.